I think we are live. Hey, how is it going? Lee Hayward here with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, June the 24th. Moving our way through June, and it's officially summer. I mean, I know it kicked in a couple days ago, but this is the first summer video chat of 2022, and it's pretty darn cool. Or I should say, it's pretty darn hot. I should say it that way. It's actually pretty warm here. So I'm down in my basement, which is the coolest part of the house, and I'm actually enjoying it because upstairs it's pretty hot today, and I'm not acclimatized to the heat, right? Acclimated or whatever the word is. I'm not acclimated to the heat, right? I'm used to freezing my arse off, so I'm not used to sweating. So let's see. First off, I just want to make sure that this is coming through loud and clear, that you can hear me, that you can see me, all that good stuff. So if you can, let me know into the video chat comments there. Type in and let me know if this is coming through loud and clear. Just say loud and clear. And if it is, thank you, Dan. Much appreciated. Dan said loud and clear. Good. Dan's a regular. Nice to have you joining in. Who else we got there joining in? We have Velron Edits. How you doing? I'm doing great. Thank you much. We've got YT joining in. Lee Dunnigan joining in. Welcome, folks. Good day, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time it happens to be in your neck of the woods. All right. I'm a little later than normal. I normally start live at 5 Eastern time, that is. All right. But today we were having dinner with the family and I lost track of time. So I was a bit late starting, right? I was enjoying a good meal. We had fish and noodles and vegetables, and it was actually quite tasty. So that was my meal this evening and lost track of time. So do apologize, right? My wife's cooking got the better of me, and I overindulged in the meal. But my belly is happy, and that's all that matters. All right, who else we got joining in? We got Roger joining in. Welcome. Andrew's joining in. Awesome. Good stuff. All right, so first off, the way these video chats work, if you are brand new and you've never tuned into one of these things before, welcome. I'm going to be hanging out here for the next little while, answering questions and topics of discussion that you may have relating to fitness and nutrition, exercise, and building muscle and losing fat, and any specific challenges you got when it comes to your workouts or your eating plan. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our video chat. Now, full transparency, I don't claim to know it all, right? I mean, yes, I've been doing this for a long time, right? I've been around the fitness industry and I've been working out myself since 1990. So I've been doing this for quite a long time. I've helped numerous people throughout the years. In fact, I started my first website back in 1997 and started coaching people online since then. So, a few years under my belt and thousands of people later, but I still don't have this know-it-all mentality. Like, I know a fair bit, but if I can't help you with a particular question or something that's outside my comfort zone, if you will, I won't hesitate to let you know, right? But I'll try and point you in the right direction to somebody who can help. But in the meantime, I will do the best I can to help you out with any questions that you may have. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Andrew is joining in. Hello, Lee. Hello, Andrew. He says, a lot of people are scared of gaining weight to build muscle. They want to consistently stay at the same weight forever to get huge. What would you say to these people? All right, so I'm going to unpack that question. And I actually know Andrew. I've never met him personally, but we've messaged before, and he's a regular to our video chat. So I kind of know his situation here. He means afraid of gaining weight. I mean, let's unpack that. It's not afraid of gaining weight. You're afraid of gaining body fat. A lot of people want to be lean and shredded and huge all at the same time. And, you look at a professional bodybuilder or fitness model or whatever, and they're lean, they're huge, they're shredded. And that's not a one-stop shop setup. Like, you don't go from zero to hero overnight. It's not like I go from skinny, scrawny beginner to lean, huge, shredded pro bodybuilder in one go. It doesn't happen like that. There's multiple phases throughout that journey. And the first phase is if you're a so-called skinny hard gainer, you got to put some meat on your bones. You got to fill out your frame, and you just got to focus on gaining muscular body weight and getting bigger and stronger all over. Don't get hung up with isolation and specialization and prioritization this and, oh, what if my abs get blurred in that journey of trying to gain muscular body weight? Like, you literally, if you are a skinny teenager, and I can kind of relate to this because I was kind of in that category for a while when I started. When I started working out, I was about 130 pounds. So not big by any stretch of the imagination. And at that stage, like, I just wanted to get bigger. So my main focus was consuming a calorie surplus and working out consistently. That was the main focus. And to be honest, it wasn't always clean calories. Now, I did try to meet my protein intake goals, like getting the minimum of a gram of protein per pound of body weight. But I'll be totally honest, there was a lot of not so good food thrown in there as well, right? And it worked, especially through my teenage years, because the teenage years are kind of like the golden years where you can get away with a lot of stuff. You can get away with not being so clean with your diet. You can get away with not being so perfect with your workouts, and things are still going to work because your body is primed for growth. During those, like, as you're going through puberty, adolescence, whatever you want to call it, as you're growing up and maturing and becoming an adult, your natural hormone levels are kicking in, right? Your body is in a phase of growth. And everybody, regardless of who you are, regardless of if you exercise or not, you're going to get bigger and stronger going through puberty. So you take a 13-year-old and a 19-year-old, in the process of going from 13 to 19, everybody's going to get bigger and stronger. They're going to have more muscle on their frame. They're going to be stronger. They're going to grow, regardless if they touch a weight or not, just due to genetics and the body maturing and growing at its natural pace. Now, if you combine that with a half decent nutrition program and a half decent workout program, you can make exceptional gains, and you can really amplify the whole process. And this is what I did. I was pretty fortunate to start when I was young, started working out when I was 12. And throughout my whole teenage years, the gains I made were off the charts. It really was. Like, I started off, I was 130 pounds. And by the time I was, around 20, I was pushing 200 pounds. I was basically as big as I am now, right? When I was 20 years old. So put 70 pounds on throughout my teenage years. I mean, that's a lot of mass. Now, when you break it down year by year, I mean, it's still impressive, but it's not like mind blowing or anything like that. But that's how the process works, right? I mean, like, if I could have duplicated that type of progress now at this stage of the game, I mean, it'd be unreal. But that's the type of gains that are possible when you're going through that phase. But in that journey, you got to eat a lot, right? You got to fuel that muscle growth. You can't be in a calorie deficit and expect to fill out your frame and gain muscular body weight. You got to consume enough. You got to fuel the machine. And that's what I did during those years. I fueled the machine, and I grew really well. And I wasn't afraid of gaining a bit of body fat. Like, I wasn't shredded the whole time. Now, there was a few times where I did diet down along that journey because I did a couple bodybuilding shows in my later teens. Like, did my first show at 17. So I actually competed for 17, 18, and 19, those 3 years when I was a teenager. And in the transition, I mean, I did diet down and get visible abdominal definition and stage ready conditioning. But for the most of it, I was in a surplus, and I was just kind of like big and smooth. It wasn't lean and shredded. But that's what I needed to be in order to fill out my frame and grow. And it really helped. And for someone who's in that phase, like, I know we got some young guys who are going through this now. If your main goal is to really fill out your frame with muscular body weight and just get bigger and stronger, I would postpone the whole trying to diet and get shredded. Now, I'm not saying purposely get fat or trying to force yourself to gain weight either, because there's you can take anything out of context, and you can too much of a good thing, right? You can blow things out of proportion. But what I would recommend is eating enough to allow your body to grow. Eat enough to fuel the workouts, to have adequate recovery, to be in a slight calorie surplus, and let your body grow. Not trying to force it to grow, because this is the downside of the old school bulking program, is where people would slam back unnecessarily high calories and literally try and force their body to grow, like thinking, yeah, I'm going to gain a pound a week, right? And I'm going to force feed myself until I'm gaining a pound a week consistently. And then they're slamming back an extra, 500 or 1,000 calories a day over and above their maintenance and thinking that, oh, that's all going to be lean mass. No, a little bit of it's going to be lean mass and the rest of it's just going to spill over to body fat. So you do want to be in a slight surplus, but not so much that you're getting sloppy fat in the process. So for a lot of times when people are in a lean bulk phase, if you will, I actually recommend that you strive for maintenance or maybe slightly above. And the reason why I say strive for maintenance is because most people are notoriously famous for underestimating their calories. Like, especially if they're tracking their nutrition, counting their macros and everything else, it's so easy to underestimate it, whether you're underestimating your portion sizes. A lot of times the food labels are not truly accurate either, because I've made videos about this, but there's whole discrepancies in the nutrition label industry and that, like food companies they're allowed a 20% margin of error legally on the nutrition label. So if something says it's 100 calories, it may be 120 calories or it may be 80 calories. And more often than not, most nutrition companies are going to err on the low side because they know low calorie tends to sell more than higher calorie, because most people are trying to lose weight. Like, you look at the average population. So when the things are lower in calories, low calorie, fat free, low fat, low sugar, low whatever, it tends to sell more. Like, it's not so much nutritional strategies, it's marketing strategies, right? Because they know that, hey, if we label this as a lower calorie, people will buy it and feel guilt free, or feel that it's okay, or it's a better choice than something that's higher calorie. So when there's a margin of error that they're legally allowed to use, you can bet your bottom dollar that more often than not, they're going to err on the conservative side, not the other side. So what this ends up happening is a lot of people underestimate how much they're eating. So even if you're tracking your calories and you're MyFitnessPaling it and entering everything in, and it says, okay, I consumed 2,000 calories. In reality, you probably consumed 2,500 or more. And that's being very generous. Like, I've seen studies where people have taken dieters who've been tracking their nutrition intake, and on average, people underestimate their calories by as much as 50%. Even dietitians and fitness and nutrition coaches underestimate their calorie intake. And that's been shown, when they've took groups of dietitians and had them actually track their calories, on average, they were underestimating by I think it was like 20%. And this is people who do this stuff for a living, right? People like yours truly, people who are supposedly the knowledgeable ones who should have this shit figured out. We're still underestimating our calories. And part of it, again, is because food labels could be wrong, or part of it could be you're just misguiding and misrepresenting portion sizes or whatever, or there could be certain things that you're not tracking or counting, right? So what I recommend, if your goal is to lean bulk, strive for maintenance, and that will probably put you into that slight surplus that you need. And then just let your body grow. As long as you're eating enough to fuel the workouts, to recover, to have adequate energy, not feel hungry, you're good. You've got enough. Like, you don't need to be bloated and stuffed, and you don't need to try and force feed yourself to gain muscle. You just need to eat enough to get the job done, and then just trust the process and let it happen. Be consistent with the workouts, consistent with the nutrition, consistent with sleep and lifestyle habits and all that stuff. Do as much healthy, good stuff as you can so that you're tipping the scale in favor of progress versus unhealthy stuff that's going to hold you back. And then it's just a matter of time. It really is. It's just trust the process and let it happen. But you got to let go of that whole fear of, oh, I might gain a little bit of body fat. Oh, my six pack might blur, right? Like if your main goal is to be as big and strong as you can, it's okay. And even the pro bodybuilders, like, you see these guys in the off season, they're not walking around with striated glutes and ripped six-pack abs and everything else. Like, they smooth out in the off season because they gain some body fat and they fill out their frame. And then once they have the mass on their frame, then they focus on training for definition and switching gears. But you gotta put the mass there first, right? You can't curve something that ain't there, right? You gotta have some visualize yourself like a sculptor, right? You got to have some clay to work with before you start sculpting it. And if you don't have any clay and you just start sculpting, well, you're going to have this puny little tiny scrawny sculpture and it's not going to look very impressive. But if you got a big hunk of clay, then you can sculpt it, right? So you got to put some clay on there. You got to put some meat on the bones first before you worry about the sculpting part. And this is the process, right? So I know this is a long-winded answer to the question, but it's hopefully this is beneficial for you. There's a journey. You don't just start from skinny, scrawny newbie and then go from ripped, huge, jacked pro bodybuilder in one go. It's like, no, we fill out the frame with muscular body weight. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty the whole time. But then once you've got some meat on your bones, then you can fine tune it and sculpt it and focus on specialization and balancing out any muscle weaknesses that you have and all that kind of stuff and fine tune it as you go. But you don't start from zero and go to hero overnight. Anyway, hope that helps, Andrew. That's my advice to people who are afraid of gaining body fat. I got Paul joining in. We've got, who else joining in? VLERNX. All right. Velnrex says, I got a question. I somehow gained weight even though I look like I lost weight and I look thinner. But when I weigh myself, apparently I gained 1 kilo. How come this happened? All right. If it's a small fluctuation, like 1 kilo, like that's a good sized bowel movement. Like seriously, don't get hung up on nitty gritty details. Your weight is going to fluctuate up and down. In my case, my weight can fluctuate 2 to 3 kilos a day. Now, for those of you who are using the standard system, that's 5 to 6 pounds ish, that range. It's very normal for average size people to gain and lose at least 5 pounds over the course of 24 hours. Generally, after an overnight fast, you're going to be at your lowest weight. So in the morning, before you've eaten and drinking, and after you did your pee and all that, and if you jump on the scale, most people are going to be at their lightest weight then. And then after all day of eating and drinking and whatever, you're going to gain weight. And you can easily gain 5 pounds or 2 to 3 kilos over the course of the day. That's normal. So if your weight has gone up by 1 kilo, that is probably just food and water weight and stuff like that. It's not always pure body fat or muscle gain or anything like that. Most of the short-term fluctuations is just food and fluid. That's it. Food and fluid. It's stored water, stored glycogen, all that kind of stuff. And if you manipulate your water intake, you manipulate your carb intake, that can have a huge impact on your weight. Like if you eat low carbs and you deplete yourself, you're going to lose weight because for every gram of stored carbs, i.e. stored glycogen in the system, your body's going to retain 3 to 4 grams of water. So that's why whenever anybody goes on these low carb diets, like someone says, oh, I went keto and I lost 10 pounds in a week. Like, no shit, Sherlock, you lost 10 pounds because you just depleted your glycogen and lost water. It's not 10 pounds of body fat, it's 10 pounds of glycogen and water. And vice versa. If you carb up, then you're going to gain weight because you're going to fill up your glycogen stores. And then as you fill up your glycogen stores, it's going to pull in 3 to 4 grams of water for every gram of glycogen. And you could easily gain a couple of kilos just based on, high carb, low carb. Like you can literally manipulate it that fast. Right? Over the course of, 48 hours, you can drastically change your body weight just based on water and food and carbohydrate intake. So don't get hung up on, oh, I gained 1 kilo. Right? Look at the long-term trend. So this applies for anybody whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight. Don't nitpick over, oh, I gained a pound, I lost a pound, this and that. Look at the trend. And ideally, write it down, track it. And what I would recommend if you are serious about tracking your progress is every day, weigh yourself. And I mean, if you want, you can even weigh yourself multiple times a day, to see how your body responds. But from a tracking point of view, ideally weigh yourself at the same time every day. So say first thing in the morning after you get up and do your pee, before you eat and drink anything. Jump on the scale, see what your weight is. And whatever it is, just write it down. Let's just say you're 75 kilograms. Okay, write down 75 kilograms. And then the next day you weigh yourself and you're 75.3 kilograms. Write it down, right? And then the next day you're 74.9 kilograms. Write it down. Like whatever the number is, just write it down. And then at the end of the week, just add it all up and divide it by 7, and that's your average weight for the week. And then go by that. That's the weight that you're going to be tracking, is your average for the week. And this will give you a much more balanced view of how your body's changing and not getting distracted by the day-to-day fluctuations from food and water. And then you can monitor and adjust things accordingly based on that weekly average. So it's almost like watching the stock market. Like there's going to be dips and highs and lows all the time. Like the stock market, some days it's high, some days it's low, some days it's high, some days it's low. It's up, down, up, down, up, down, right? But we want to see where's the trend heading. Like if we looked at it like over the course of 3 months, over the course of 6 months, over the course of the past year, like where is that trend heading? Is it just trending up? Is it trending down? And look at the long-term trend, not the short-term day-to-day fluctuations, right? That's what you want to focus on. So it's with your body weight, don't get freaked out because you gained a kilogram, right? It's not the end of the world. And you could very well be on the right track. Like if you're training to get leaner and lose body fat, maybe you're on the right track, especially if you say you're looking leaner and everything else. And then maybe you just had a big high carb meal and you're just retaining a bit of water from that, right? That could be the reason why you gained a kilogram. All right, moving on. So now I'm going to grab a sip of water. Speaking of water weight, I'm going to put some on. There, I just gained 2 ounces of water. All right, if I step on the scale now, I'm going to be 2 ounces heavier than I was a sip ago. What else we got there? Nathan is joining in. We have Zeb joining in. Saying, hello, Mr. Hayward. Hello, Zeb. Still looking great. Thank you for streaming again. You're a real inspiration. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you much. Jose is joining in. Says, hello, Lee. How are you? I'm doing fine. Thank you much. Says, I'm listening from my vacation in Cancun. Awesome. Good for you. Says, I've been trying to follow the tips on eating while on vacation. And also been doing my daily workouts at the resort gym. Good stuff, man. This is ironic you mentioned this because I was actually having a coaching call today with one of my students who just got back from a vacation. And we had to do a bit of reframing in that call. And I'm going to share this story with you. The student's name is Jason. And he was on a vacation with his family. And he tried his best while he was on vacation. Like he went there with the best of intentions. And some of the things, like he packed some protein supplements and protein bars and things like that have as in between meal snacks, so you're not resorting to, fast food, junk food, snack food, if you will. He wanted to have some like packed Quest bars, for example, and took some protein with him. And so he would have that covered. He was working out at like hotel gyms and he was getting out for walks on a regular basis and overall trying to make better food choices. Like when he'd go to the restaurant, he would like choose, be more deliberate in what he was choosing, try to choose healthier options on the menu. Now, there were a few times where he did, have some not so healthy food at the restaurant. They ordered pizza a couple times and they went out for ice cream and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they're on vacation. He's on vacation with his family. So he did live a little. And he was upset over the fact that, one of the places they stayed at didn't have a gym, so he couldn't work out. But he still got outside for a walk that day. He was upset over the fact that, hey, I gave in and I had pizza a couple times and I had ice cream a couple times and this and that. And he was almost like starting to beat himself up over it. And I was like, let's just hold on there. Let's just step back and look at the bigger picture of what's going on here. Is this better than you were before? Like, let's compare this vacation to last summer's vacation. Like, were you going to the hotel gym last year when you were on vacation? Were you eating vegetables with your meals and ordering healthier options at the restaurant on last year's vacation? Were you planning in advance by packing, protein bars and things like that so that you wouldn't be, resorting to gas station food or whatever while you're traveling, like candy bars and stuff like that? Were you planning ahead? Like, were you as good last year as you were this year? Of course not, right? Like last year, he ate whatever the hell he wanted, didn't exercise. He was just like a normal person, if you will, like most of society, right? They don't exercise, eat whatever the hell they want, and boom, that's it. That's it. So he made solid progress. He was better than he was before. And instead of looking at that as a failure, I look at that as a massive victory. Like, okay, you had pizza, you had ice cream. Big deal. You were better than you were before. There was more good choices made than there was before. And that's what we got to focus on. Like so many people, they're going around looking for the flaws. They're looking for the mistakes, right? They got their red marker and they're looking for, whoa, that's wrong, X, wrong, 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 bad, 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 you suck, wrong, wrong, wrong. Don't go looking for what's wrong. Look for what's right. Because if you go looking for what's right, you're going to find more of what's right. And it's going to change your mindset. And it's actually, you look at it as a victory versus looking at it as a failure. And then when you have a victory, what do you want? You want more victories. And it actually motivates you to actually push forward. So I helped him to reframe his vacation, which he was a bit upset about because he let himself go. And I said, man, so what? You let yourself go? Big deal. Forgive, correct, continue, start again. Like I screw up all the time. Like, I mean, I'll have a cheat meal from time to time. I'll take the family out for ice cream from time to time. Big deal. But as soon as that's done, like I get the craving out of the system, then I just move on, right? Start again for your next meal, or at very least start again for the next day. You know, if I get busy and I skip a workout, big deal, right? I'll work out the next day. Like I don't beat myself up over it and say, oh, I failed again, right? Because so many people do that. They have this all or nothing perfection mindset, thinking, well, like if I can't be perfect and I can't be 100% with my workouts, 100% with my eating, then screw it, F it. What's the point of doing anything at all? If I can't be perfect, then I'm not going to do anything. And they have that perfection, all or nothing mindset. And the problem with that is nobody can be all in 100% of the time. Nobody. Like the world's top athletes and professionals and fitness models and bodybuilders and celebrities and actors and whoever, like nobody can be 100% on 100% of the time. Like everybody's going to screw up. Like something's going to happen. Life's going to throw a curveball. You're going to get sick. You're going to be out of your element. You're going to be faced with situations where you can't stick to your macros, right? You're going to be in a situation where there's no gym or whatever, and you got to kind of make do with what you have available. Like the shit's going to hit the fan. It's not like if it hits the fan, it's like when it hits the fan. And when it hits the fan, just anticipate it, deal with it, and just adapt and move on. Don't beat yourself up over it. And I mean, this is something that we really go into detail with the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint program. Is like, instead of this all or nothing perfection approach, it's just like, screw that. Let's just be good enough, but good enough consistently. And let's master the in-between, like be better than you were before. Not this, I'm all in or I'm not doing anything approach. Like, no, let's find that healthy balance in the middle. And that's what makes this sustainable, where you can still enjoy yourself, still go on vacation, still go out to dinner, still live a normal life, and still make progress. I mean, that's what we want. I mean, like, do you want to be a slave to the gym and live off boiled chicken and broccoli for the rest of your life? Like, never have another carbohydrate for the rest of your life and have to work out for like 3 hours a day for the rest of your life and just be a slave to this? Like, it's almost like you're like a ball and chain that you're lugging around with you everywhere. Or would you like it to be an enjoyable addition to your life where, yeah, I work out most of the time, I eat healthy most of the time, but I still, right, I can go out and enjoy myself some of the time. And when you allow that balance, it takes the stress out of this. It really does. And it makes it a much more enjoyable process. And granted, the results come a little slower, but the progress you make is progress you keep, because it doesn't feel like you're restricting yourself, or it doesn't feel like you're depriving, or you're on a diet. You know, there's no end date. It's just like, hey, this is the way I live. This is just the new version of you, the new lifestyle, if you will. And you actually enjoy this type of lifestyle, being lean and healthy and fit, still getting to satisfy the cravings from time to time, and making progress. It's a game changer. It really is. And this has been, it's taken me a long time to come up with this. Like, I know it sounds simple when I spew it out here like this, but it took years of trial and error, years of going through the whole hardcore bodybuilding, cutting diets, and struggling with my own weight issues over the years to finally figure this shit out to the point where, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough, but good enough consistently, and you can still make progress. And once I not only intellectually knew it, but I started living it and doing it and seeing the results for myself, and then seeing the results long term, where it's not like I just did it for a few weeks or a few months, but I did it now for several years, and I've been able to stay lean for several years and still enjoy the process. It's like, man, this is a game changer. It really is. So where was I with that one? That was Jose's question, saying how he's making this work while on vacation. So good for you, Jose. As you can tell, I get on a ramble sometimes. Hopefully you enjoy these rambles. If you do enjoy the rambles, give it a thumbs up. I don't need many questions to make a video chat, right? I can give me half a dozen questions and I can ramble on for an hour. All right, who else we got joining in? We've got Neil joining us saying, Lee, cardio is not really my thing unless it's mandatory. Like in my boxing way back, I noticed that my breathing really hard with my workouts with short rest periods. Does that count as cardio? No. I mean, you're still getting cardiovascular benefits like from weight training. Like obviously you're still elevating your heart rate and you're still getting the fitness benefits, but it's not true cardio. And if you want to reap the benefits of cardio, you got to do cardio. It's almost like saying, "Hey, I'm running down the road. Like, does that count as squats because I'm on my legs? My legs are moving. Like, is that the same as squatting in the gym? No, I mean, yes, it's a leg exercise, but it's not the same as right doing squats or heavy leg training. So just the fact that you're breathing heavy when you work out, it's not the same as proper cardio training. And when it comes to cardio, first off, you gotta open up your mind and think bigger, because a lot of people have this very narrow-minded view of cardio, especially people from the bodybuilding world. It's always like walking on the treadmill. It's stationary bike, or it's elliptical, or it's just in the gym on this machine staring at the stupid TV that's playing the news on mute with the closed captioning there underneath, and you're just like mindlessly just are you spinning your wheels on whatever machine it is, treadmill, elliptical, bike, stepper, yada yada, whatever. And then you're counting down the time on the clock, and it's just like, man, when's this going to be over? I hate cardio. Cardio sucks. And if that's your definition of cardio, of course it sucks. Like, I mean, you're like a hamster on a wheel. Like there is like zero pleasure in that, right? You're spinning the wheels. I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but like that sucks. It really does. So with cardio, like broaden your horizons. Think of stuff that you can do that's actually fun and enjoyable. Like get outside for a walk, get outside for a hike, get outside for a bicycle ride, or do something. Like get out in nature and enjoy it. Right? I mean, like there's so many things that you can do, and it doesn't have to be spinning your wheels on a machine, staring at a TV. Like you can do fun stuff. And what I recommend is like make cardio an adventure. And in my case, like my favorite form of cardio now is cycling. So, and I do all kinds of cycling, right? I got a gravel bike, I got a road bike, and I got a fat tire bike. So, I mean, if it's in the wintertime, I got studded tires on my fat bike, and I can go ride through the woods trails on snow paths, and it's awesome. Like, beating down groom trails or snowmobile trails, like the bike can ride right over that, and it's awesome. If it's in the summertime, I'm either on my road bike or on my gravel bike, so I can go off on the dirt roads and the trails on the gravel bike, or I can hit the road on the road bike and just explore. And I love it because I mean I go to different places, I hang out with different guys. Like we got a riding group that we all get together and we ride. And like tomorrow, we got a big ride planned. Right, we're going to be doing over 100-kilometer ride tomorrow. So I mean that's going to take 4+ hours of riding tomorrow morning, all part of a group. So we got the camaraderie and we're going on an adventure because we're going to different places. I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's something that I would do, even if it wasn't good exercise, I would do it anyway because I enjoy it. Like a lot of people, for example, ride motorcycles because, hey, they like getting out with their buddies and riding motorcycles. Well, I ride a motorcycle too, except I'm the motor. Right? And I get out with my buddies and we all ride together. So we're going on adventures and we're having fun, but we're getting phenomenal exercise as a side effect of going out and hanging out and having fun. So look for ways to make cardio more enjoyable. Right? And if your definition of cardio is, again, spinning your legs on a hamster wheel in the gym, no wonder you don't like it because that's just monotonous and boring. Get outside and have some fun. And like hiking and walking and like just adventuring, whether it's getting out on a bicycle too. I mean, that's awesome. Even like playing with your kids if you got kids. I mean, I've got a 5-year-old son, and I mean, just running around playing with him. Whether we go to the park and we're throwing around a ball, or we're playing kicking the soccer ball around, or we're at the playground and we're running around chasing and we're playing tag and all that kind of stuff. Like that's anytime where you're moving nonstop, and you're getting your heart rate elevated and you're working up a sweat, that's cardio, right? So, I mean, look for ways to get that into your routine. And another thing that I should talk about here as well before we end the topic of cardio, be flexible. And what I mean by flexible is don't have these rigid rules saying like, oh, well, if I don't have, an hour to do cardio, I don't have time to do cardio. Cardio is so flexible. Like you can do little mini cardio sessions and still reap the benefits of it, right? I mean, yeah, sure, it's great to go on a big, long cardio session. Like in my case, I love going on big, long bike rides or whatever. But if I don't have time for that, I mean, I'll go for a walk around the block. And I like to do little bursts of cardio throughout the day. So, for example, like if I'm doing coaching calls with my students and I look at my calendar for the day and I say, okay, like I got X many calls today, but I look, hey, you know what? I got like a half hour gap between this one and I got a half hour gap between that one. Well, in those little half hour gaps, like I could haul on my sneakers and get outside and go for a walk around the block. Or, I could go outside and play with my son for a half hour. Or I could do something like I got these little bursts, these little blocks of time that I can take advantage of. Like, heck, even if it's 10 minutes, like 10 minutes is something's better than nothing versus just sitting on your ass and scrolling through your phone or whatever. Look for these little opportunities of dead time that you have throughout the day. And we all have them. Like maybe you got some time on your lunch break where you can, instead of sitting in the break room and scrolling through your phone and social media or, shooting the shit over the, the water cooler and the coffee pot, like get outside and go for a walk around the block. Like, I mean, that counts. It all adds up. So there's all these little opportunities throughout the day where you can take advantage of it. Little walk in the morning before work, walk on your lunch break, go walk after work, walk in the evening after dinner. Like all these little opportunities that you can take advantage of. And if you want to make it more enjoyable, hey, listen to some of your favorite music while you're going out. Listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks, right? You can have it be an exercise and education all in one. So if there's a particular something that you're really interested in, maybe a good audiobook or a good podcast or something like that, listen to it while you're doing cardio. I mean, that's what I do. I do it all the time, especially when I'm by myself. Like if I'm going out for a walk or something like that, I got myself a good audiobook or a good podcast that I enjoy listening to. So I'm learning, educating, and exercising all in one. And it's something that I really enjoy. And the more you do it, the more you'll get into it and the more fun it's going to be. And then, of course, the results are just going to compound. So cardio is mandatory and you should be doing it. Everybody should be. All right, moving on. Let's see what else we got there. I lost my spot. I accidentally clicked the mouse and my screen jumped. YT. If one is not aiming to build muscle, bodybuilding, or strength, how should one train just to be healthy and reap the benefits of resistance training? Great question. And this is something that I can relate a lot to because I'm kind of in that category myself. And a lot of my coaching students in the Muscle After 40 Blueprint are in that category as well, where they're not trying to be bodybuilders. They're not trying to be powerlifters. They're not trying to set records or anything like that. They just want to be a lean, healthy version of themselves, right? Like they're not out to try and impress anybody. They just want to be lean and healthy and live life to the fullest without their body holding them back. To have a physique where they can go do normal stuff and not be embarrassed about how they look, right? They can go to the beach and actually take their shirt off without feeling embarrassed about having a big old pot belly sticking out. Or they can, walk up a flight of stairs without getting winded. Or they can play with their kids or their grandkids, without fear of having a heart attack. Like they just want to do normal shit without their body holding them back. That's what 99% of the people out there want. Like they're not looking to be on stage with Mr. Olympia or anything like that. That's like the pinnacle, like the top 1% of the 1% of the 1%. Like, the 1 in the million has aspirations for that. But the rest of us, we just want to be the best version of ourselves. Like that's the reality for most people. So I can totally relate to where you're coming from. You don't want to be a bodybuilder. You don't want to be a powerlifter. You just want to be the best version of you. And how I would recommend that is utilizing what I refer to as my yin and yang training system. If you've followed me for any length of time, you probably heard me say this before, but it's basically alternating weight training one day and cardio the next. So one day you go to the gym, do a weight training workout. Next day, you take off from resistance training, and that's when you can do some extra cardio. So whether it's going for a walk, a bicycle ride, a hike in the woods, playing with your kids, Even if it's cardio machines indoors, if the weather sucks, like you can still do it from time to time, but do some form of cardio, right? And then the next day you do weight training. So you're always alternating weight training one day, cardio the next, weight training one day, cardio the next. And this allows you to reap the benefits of daily exercise and do so without breaking down your body. Because with the weight training workouts, that's when you're placing stress on the joints, tendons, and ligaments, and you're stressing the central nervous system. It's the high intensity, demanding exercise. It's breaking the body down. But the cardio, especially if it's a lower intensity cardio, it's active recovery. It helps to rejuvenate the body. Like when you go for a walk, you don't feel beat up afterwards, unless you're really, really, really out of shape. But like most people, they actually go for a walk and they feel good afterwards, because you got some fresh air, you got your legs moving, you got the blood pumping and the circulation happening. But it wasn't stressful. It wasn't to the point where like, oh man, I'm gasping for air and my lungs are burning and my legs are on fire. You don't get that when you go for a walk. You actually enjoy it. You get outside, you just feel good. So it's active recovery. You're moving your body, but you're not tearing it down. So it's rejuvenating, but it's also burning fat and calories and helping to improve your cardiovascular fitness. So it's improving that, but it's active recovery from the weight training. And then the next day, get back to the weight training again. So it's always alternate weight training one day, cardio the next, weight training one day, cardio the next. And this is how I structure the majority of my workouts. I do that in that alternating fashion. And it's worked really well because you're able to reap the benefits of daily exercise, but also work within your body's recovery abilities and not live in the gym. Like I'm only in the gym 3 days a week at most. Like some days it's less than that. Some days I miss a workout and I'm only in there a couple days a week. But I'm still able to maintain my my strength and fitness from that, and even progress in those areas as well. Because it doesn't take a lot to progress. It's good enough, but good enough consistently. The consistency is more important than the intensity. So as long as you can stick to that consistently, you can still make amazing progress and enjoy the journey. So that's how I'd recommend reaping the benefits of resistance training without, going to the extremes. And if you'd like some help with that, feel free to reach out to me. Like I've got some resources that I could share with you, or we could even just have a chat and brainstorm your situation, your goals, what it is you're trying to achieve. And we can even have a strategy session call and, discuss, a realistic action plan that works for you. So if that's something you're interested in, just open up the description below and my email is there. There's also a link where you can book in for a free strategy session call with me and we can discuss this stuff in more detail. All right, moving on. Jose is saying next week he's back to his regular training, and thanks for all the tips. Good stuff. Let's see what else we got. David is joining us. Hey, Lee, not watched you live in a while. Is slow reps better? I've been doing my exercises all wrong. Can fast ruin muscle gains? Okay. It depends. There's pros and cons to virtually every style of training, and it really depends on the individual, the situation, what it is that you're training for. There's a time and a place for fast, explosive lifting. There's a time and a place for slow, controlled lifting, and everything in between, right? So I'm not one of these guys who says, "Hey, it's this way. Everybody's got to do it this way, and if you do it the other way, you're wrong," or whatever. Like some people are very black and white when it comes to that, but when it comes to anything for that matter, fitness, nutrition, or literally anything out there in life, it's not black, white, good, bad, right, wrong. There's a lot of gray area in between, right? There's 50 shades of gray in between. There's a lot of gray area, right? So, it depends. So for example, if you are an Olympic weightlifter who's doing like the clean and jerk and the snatch, you're not doing that slow and controlled, right? You're not slowly clean the bar, slowly press it overhead. No, it's explosive. It's a max effort, explosive, fast, rapid movement. If you're an athlete training for something, like let's just say you're a boxer, right? Are you going to throw a nice slow and controlled punch? Like, here comes my jab. Oh, here comes my cross. Oh, here comes my hook. Oh, nice, slow and controlled. No, it's pat, boom, boom, right? You got to be fast. So you got to be explosive. Now, if you're trying to isolate your biceps, right? You're a bodybuilder trying to isolate. Slow and controlled works then. So there's a time and a place for slow and controlled, and there's time and a place for fast, explosive. And it's not right, wrong, good, bad. It depends, right? So I could unpack this and talk about this for the next 25 minutes, but hopefully you get the picture from what I just shared. It's not that one is right, wrong, good or bad, or better or worse. It depends. And if you want to elaborate on it more, like maybe you got some questions about your own individual goals and training situation, then shoot me an email and we can talk about it there. All right. Velrenetics. I know I'm butchering that name. Velrenetics. Anyway. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate the tips. Thanks a lot for your help. Have an amazing night. You're welcome. Glad to help. And I apologize for butchering your username because I know I'm butchering it. I'm just going to call you VE, right? Because you got something edits there, VE. Who else we got there? Shamo Pescador. All right. I use an Excel spreadsheet to track my weight variation and calculate my weekly average. Good for you. I also developed a graph and a trend line. Awesome. So you're a numbers guy. You're a spreadsheet guy, and I'm not. I'm not a numbers spreadsheet guy, but I respect people who are. Right. That's a good complementary mix. I'm more of a big picture thinking person, and I like to have people like you to handle the details, and it's a good complementary mix. Like my wife is a good complementary mix. Like she's more detailed, organized, and stuff like that, and I'm like scatterbrain, thinking big and all over the place. So we actually complement each other quite nicely. But I respect what you're doing there. Like you're a numbers guy, and you're actually tracking it and using the spreadsheet, and that is the way to go because that gives you a much more concrete view of your actual progress versus freaking out because you stepped on the scale and, oh my God, I'm up a pound today, or hip, hip, hooray, I'm down a pound today. Like a lot of people, their emotional, their sense of well-being and sense of worth relates to the scale. Like if the scale's up, they feel like shit. The scale's down, they feel wonderful. Whereas if you're tracking it, you can avoid that emotional roller coaster and actually get a realistic view of how things are progressing. Right? It's like someone who's attached to the stock market. Like if you own stocks in anything, or maybe like even bigger, imagine if you own the company that's being publicly traded, and you feel great when it goes up, and then you feel bad when it goes down. Like it's always going up and down. So like just forget it. Like just look at the long-term trend, right? If the long-term trend is moving up, okay, feel good. If the long-term trend is moving down, decide what you're going to do, right? But don't feel bad. Like don't be emotionally attached to the results. I always recommend people to look at their fitness results almost like a scientist looking at research data. Like try and look at it from a third person perspective. If you can detach yourself emotionally from your results and oh, my weight is up today. That's interesting. I wonder what happened to cause that to happen. And you kind of, look at the cause and effect and, what happened here and look at it from an analytical research point of view versus an emotional, like, oh shit, I suck. I gained a pound today, and start freaking out and feeling bad. Right. Or vice versa. You look at it from a third person perspective, like a scientist looking at data, and, just it makes you much more level-headed when it comes to making decisions, whether you change things or modify things. Because I see people do very haphazard stuff, like they gain a pound on the scale and then they say, "Oh, that's it. I'm going on a week-long water fast or something like that," and they crash diet because the weight spiked a little bit, and then it just snowballs out of control. So I respect how you're using the spreadsheets and calculating things out and looking at the bigger picture and not just getting hung up in the nitty-gritty day-to-day details. All right, let's see what else we got there. Angelo is joining in, saying greetings from Dubai. Welcome. And I guess it's Saturday over in Dubai. I've never been there. I would love to visit sometime. I mean, I've never even been to Europe. I've never been across the big pond before. That's somewhere where I would love to visit. So, but when I do, I'll have to let you know, right? When I go, and I have to look up tour guides in all these different areas. What else is there? Shamo saying this guy's system works. Thumbs up. Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. We've got Zeb saying, have you ever thought about acting the next Terminator movie? No, I'm not planning on being the next Terminator. Have I ever thought about acting? I suppose I've thought about it, but no, I'm not planning on being an actor. But I don't know. It'd be an interesting career for sure. I'm sure it comes with its own ups and downs and perks and you know and negatives for sure. Like everything. Like it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? Anytime you get into anytime you go down the rabbit hole with anything, right? There's pros and cons to everything. So I'm sure the same applies with the whole acting career. I've never personally known anybody who's been an actor before or actress, right? Let's be politically correct here as well. Hybrid is joining us, and he says, "From your experience, what were your biggest takeaways from training conjugate in the past that you still apply to your training today?" All right, conjugate, in layman's terms, is basically combining different training modalities together. So instead of periodization, where you're only focusing, like, let me break this down. This is a method of strength training. And traditionally, strength training would start off in a more periodization fashion where you're like, okay, we're going to start off with high reps in this high volume phase, and then we're going to gradually go lower reps and heavier weight. And then we're going to go really low reps and maximum strength weight and peak out. Like we're going to big blocks of totally different training phases over the course of several weeks or several months. Whereas conjugate is kind of like combining it all together in the same week, if you will. Like it's, hey, we're going to have a light, high volume day. We're going to have a heavy, low rep day, and we're going to kind of combine it together into the same training cycle, if you will. And instead of having big gaps where I'm doing all high volume, all low volume, or whatever, we combine it together. So it's just a different style of training. And this was something that I learned of through the whole West Side Barbell program, and old Louis Simmons, God rest his soul, rest in peace. I mean, he was famous for bringing this to the mainstream, back in the day with his West Side program and his VHS tapes and all that stuff that they shot there. I mean, it was like the old, like before the YouTube, before all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, he had some of these old hardcore training tapes and stuff on VHS that was just, put you almost like a fly on the wall where you could see it happening in real time. Yeah, but my biggest takeaways, to answer your question, is like that whole concept. Like instead of just focusing on one thing for months on end, try to have that balance. And like I even incorporate that into my training now when it comes to like cycling, for example. Like that's one of my big things I'm focusing on now is improving my cycling. I've even done some races, some local amateur cycling races, and some large group rides and sportive events and stuff like that. So that's my main training focus at this stage of the game, is getting better and improving my strength and stamina and work capacity on the bike. And I incorporate a conjugate method with that. So like some days it's high volume, low intensity, kind of like active recovery, building the base, right? Just getting in the miles, building a base, building a foundation. And then other days it might be some shorter high intensity intervals. And then some other days it might be like a moderate high intensity effort, like maybe like a 20-minute max effort that you can sustain over the course of 20 minutes. Other days it might be like short little 30-second bursts. And we incorporate all different types of training modalities within the single week. So from a high volume base at low intensity, to working on sprint training, to working on, base building, tempo training, and you can combine it all together. And this is nothing new. Like people have kind of utilized this and carried it over into different sports and activities. And when I'm following along and studying like cycling coaches, this is a very common trend. Like it's not all, hey, for the first month, we're all going to do just high volume, low intensity. And then the next month, we're just going to do all tempo training. And then the third month, we're going to do all sprint training. Like people don't do that anymore, or at least most people don't. They kind of combine it all within a shorter block. Like even within the course of a week, they'll have that. So I think that's very powerful because you're building all your energy systems simultaneously, and they complement one another. Because as you get better with your sprint power, that'll actually help carry over to your long distance power as well, because you're raising your threshold when it comes to the max effort. And that also helps to raise your threshold when it comes to the aerobic capacity as well. So it's like high tides raising all ships, if you will, versus just focusing on one element and then neglecting the others. All right. Hopefully that made sense. All right. Again, as you can tell, there's no script or structure to this. It's just I'm shooting from the hip, right? I get a question, I go with it. What else we got there? Billy's joining in. He says, "Hey, Big Lee, Savage Beast. Thanks for the tips and videos, and keep up the great work. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. I'm not that big anymore, but I guess that big is all relative, right? Like by bodybuilding standards, I'm not big anymore. By cycling standards, I'm the biggest one of our group, right? So I've got a handicap when it comes to the climbs because I'm lugging up an extra 30, 40 plus pounds compared to the average guy in our group. So big is all relative, right? I'm bodybuilding small, but cycling ginormous. All right. What else we got there? Neil saying, "Thank you. Have a great day." You're welcome, Neil. Glad to help. Chamo is Roger. Okay, gotcha. Well, I know Roger's a member of the Muscle After 40 Blueprint, but I wasn't linking up your YouTube name and your real name. So sorry, Roger. Chamo, aka Roger. YT is there saying, "What are your thoughts on a week-long water fast for rapid weight loss, then trying to maintain the new low?" Ain't gonna work. That's my thoughts. Just don't. I mean, if I've done it before. Now I haven't done a week. I've done 4 days. I did a 4-day water fast, and that was enough for me to understand how the process works and to say, like, I don't want to do this anymore. But it's an interesting experience. Like, if you want to do it just for the learning process of it, if you will, then to see how your body responds. I mean, hey, go for it. Assuming you're healthy. And for full transparency, don't do anything that I say without consulting your doctor first, right? Blah blah blah. Like, this is just words of rambling on advice. Like, take it all with a grain of salt. I'm not responsible for anything that happens if you do a water fast, but I'll share my experiences with a water fast. I did a 4-day water fast. I had no idea how long I was going to go for. I just decided to try it because, like a lot of people, I've read the benefits and everyone's touting like, oh, all the health benefits you get from fasting. You're going to give your digestive system a break, and you're going to do this, and you're going to reduce inflammation, and you're going to get autophagy, and you're going to blah, 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 blah. And you're going to lose weight. And, to a degree, all that stuff is true. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's all that, but there's other ways of reaping those benefits as well, right? So you don't need to go to the extremes of a water fast. And the thing I don't like about fasting is it is that all or nothing approach, because it's not sustainable. So like, even if you lost weight through fasting, you can't sustain it, because sooner or later you're going to have to eat again. And if you don't learn how to change your eating habits, and you're like a light switch, like, oh, I'm turning off my food intake, turning it back on again, turning it off, turning it back on. Like, you don't learn proper eating habits. You don't learn how to fuel your body and nourish it on the cellular level. It's just this feast or famine and hope for the best, right? Like that. It's not helping the underlying root cause. So if you've gotten overweight and out of shape from your eating habits, then trying to go on a fast is like putting on a Band-Aid, hoping that it's going to fix the problem. When it's not fixing the root cause, it's just kind of masking the symptoms. It's like sweeping the dirt under the rug and hoping the house gets clean, right? It's a quick fix solution. It's not a permanent solution. Like, if you have bad eating habits to begin with, then you have to reprogram those eating habits and lifestyle choices and fix the root cause. You got to prevent yourself from getting fat in the first place. The first step to losing weight is to stop gaining weight. So you got to learn how to fix the problem. Like, imagine we got a boat and we're out at sea and there's a hole in the boat and the boat's taking on water. Well, we can worry about, like, okay, what's the fastest way to bail this water out of the boat, right? Will I get a bucket? Will I get a siphon? Will I get a pump? Like, how will I get the water out of the boat? How about we plug the hole first, right? Stop the boat from taking on more water, and then we worry about getting the water out of the boat. Because no matter how fast we bail the water out of the boat, if the hole is there and it's still taking on water, then as soon as you stop that nose to the grindstone bailing the water out, it's just going to fill back up again. So the same thing, like if you're going on a diet as your solution for losing fat, but you haven't fixed your underlying problems, well, as soon as you stop the diet, you're going to gain the fat back again, right? You have to fix the problem, plug the hole, right? You got to fix the root cause. And that's about reprogramming your mindset and your eating habits and all this kind of stuff. And that's what we focus on with the whole Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program is plugging the hole. Like the first step to losing fat is to stop getting fat in the first place. And once you master that, then we can focus on losing the fat that you have, right? So a water fast is not a permanent solution, right? I'll just say that. Now, with that being said, what was my results like going through it? I did it more or less out of curiosity, and day one sucks. Well, the first half of day one's not so bad because you can go half a day without eating and not feel too bad. But by the end of day one, I was like, man, I want to eat. I'm hungry, stomach growling, and having to go to bed on an empty stomach and everything else. Not the best. I slept like shit during the whole water fast, right? Because you're going to bed on an empty stomach and you're waking up and your belly's growling and all that. It's not fun. So the first 24 hours was rough. Second 24 hours, still pretty rough, right? But by day 3, zero hunger. It's just like, I could take it or leave it. Like I didn't feel hungry. Like it was just like, just shut off. There was no appetite. And it's like, I would like to eat because I just enjoy eating and I like the taste of food and blah, 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 but I'm not physically hungry. So I guess by day 3, you're full on into ketosis where your body's breaking down body fat as well as breaking down its own lean tissue as well. Right? You're losing it all. You're losing fat and losing muscle and depleting your glycogen stores and all that. By day 4 was pretty much similar to day 3. Like I really wasn't hungry, but I found my energy levels were low. Like there was no extra energy day 4. I was just like dragging my heels. I felt tired. I felt exhausted. I mean, like you're literally running on empty. There's nothing left in the tank, so it's just fumes. That's what I was running on, but I wasn't hungry. Like it's crazy. Like your appetite shuts off after a couple days, and you're in this situation where I would like to eat just because I enjoy eating, but I'm not starving. Like you're more hungry. Like if you go several hours and you're during a normal day, like if you skip lunch, for example, and you're like, man, I'm famished and can't wait to eat dinner. Like I would feel more hungry then than I did after 4 days of not eating anything. Because it's just like after a couple days, your appetite just literally shuts off. And wasn't a big issue. So I can see how people stick to these prolonged fasts over time because you're not really hungry, especially if you can keep yourself distracted with other things that are non-food related, like you keep yourself busy or distracted with whatever, whether that's work or hobbies or video games or something or another. I mean, you keep yourself distracted, you can go without eating and not feel hungry. But I did it for 4 days, and like after that, my energy was rock bottom. Like I mean, I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't really do anything. I was just like, okay, I kind of understand how this whole stuff works, and I just said I want to get back to normal again. So then I just basically resume my normal eating. And during that 4-day water fast, I lost a ton of weight. I mean, I don't know exactly what the numbers were off the top of my head because it was a few years back when I did it, but it was more than 10 pounds in 4 days. Like it was probably actually pushing 15 pounds in 4 days. Now, that's not 15 pounds of body fat, right? I want to clarify that because a lot of people say, oh my God, I'm going to go on this and lose 15 pounds. Yay. It was just literally depleting glycogen and water because after 4 days of not eating, my glycogen reserves were empty, zero, zilch, gone, emptied the tank. For every gram of stored glycogen, you're retaining 3 to 4 grams of water. So I depleted all the glycogen from my liver and muscle and everything else. So I was flat as a pancake, no energy. I was useless. Depleted liver glycogen, muscle glycogen, everything else. Also depleted all the water that went along with it. So I just felt like a string bean. I was flat, there was nothing there, just like let the air out of a balloon. All right. So yeah, I lost 10 plus pounds of water, somewhere in that range. I can't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere between 10 and 15 pounds. Soon as I started eating again and I refilled my glycogen stores, I put it all back on again. So it's not a permanent solution, right? It's only a quick fix. And the other downside of it is some of that weight you're losing, it's not all body fat. Like everyone hopes, oh, well, I'm only going to lose body fat. But when you're not eating any protein, you're not, nourishing your body on the cellular level, like you're consuming zero nutrition, you're losing muscle tissue as well. So you're depleting your glycogen, you're burning some body fat, you're burning up some lean muscle tissue. So your body's literally going into starvation mode. And that's not the ideal situation to be in, right? So don't look to this as some magic bullet permanent fat loss. Like I know some people are water fast fanatics online, and there's almost like a cult following in that. But seriously, I would not recommend it. I don't have any of my coaching students do it because I just know it's not a long-term sustainable solution. Right? The long-term sustainable stuff is the boring stuff, right? It's proper nutrition, it's regular exercise, it's living a healthy lifestyle, all that boring shit that people don't want to do. And they're always looking for the quick fix, pop a pills, solution. If there was a quick fix, pop a pill solution, everybody be doing it and everybody be in amazing shape, right? There'd be no obesity in the world because we'd all do this amazing quick fix solution and everybody be in great shape. We all be hanging out at the beach with, Adonis bodies and muscles glistening in the sunlight and women hanging off our arms and, living the dream. But that's not the reality, right? The reality is, the vast majority of people are overweight and out of shape. That's the reality. Because the quick fix shit doesn't work, right? It's the boring stuff, the stuff that everybody doesn't want to do, the eating right and the exercise and eating your vegetables and, living a healthy lifestyle, all that stuff, getting adequate sleep, right? The stuff that you should be doing, but you're not doing. That's the secret to success. And it's not just doing it for a few weeks or a few months. It's doing it good enough consistently so it becomes part of you and your new lifestyle. That's what works. So, long-winded answer to a question. Don't do it. I water fast between meals by drinking water. That's how I do it. We got Bob V. Bob Vila, maybe? I remember Bob Vila and doing the home fixer-upper shows. If you know who Bob Vila is, you're in your 40s or older. Anyway, moving on. His thoughts on separating a workout session to a 2-a-day workout, 1 hour or 30 minutes, and finish up with other muscles later to reduce cortisol. I wouldn't be too hung up on the whole cortisol thing, but if it fits your schedule better, do it. Like it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. The whole argument of like 1 a day versus twice a day. Personally, I'd rather go to the gym and get it all done in one session versus packing up my gym bag, driving to the gym, the whole, just get your ass in the door and then do half a workout and then leave, come home, and then have to go back and do it all over again. I would rather just be efficient and say hey, I'm going to get it all done in one shot, versus backtracking back and forth. Now, with that being said, if time is not an issue and everything else, hey, if you want to do twice a day, then do twice a day. You can still make it work. But it's as you're looking at a results point of view, I don't think there's really any major advantage to 1 a day versus twice a day workouts. I think you could get just as good a results over the long term with either one. And that's nitpicky detail stuff. When you look at the bigger picture, are you working out and are you working out consistently? Are you training in a progressive overload fashion? Are you fueling your body with proper nutrition? Are you getting at least 8 hours of sleep each night? Are you avoiding alcohol and recreational drugs and all those negatives that are going to slow down your progress? All those things are going to have a much bigger impact than, hey, do I go to the gym and do all my workout in one go or break it up into two? That's so low on the totem pole in terms of priorities. It's like we're building a house, and before we even got the foundation laid and the walls up and everything else, we're wondering what color are the curtains going to be, right? Or instead of curtains, should we have Venetian blinds? What would be better, curtains or blinds? Let's build a freaking house first before we worry about the curtains or the blinds. That's what I'm talking about. That's a nitty small detail. I mean, it does matter, in the greater scheme of things, once you have it all set up and done, but it's a small detail in the greater priority. So if you're consistent, and I mean year in, year out consistent with your workouts, not hey, I'm on and off again. I've been working out for 2 weeks, then took 2 weeks off, and I'm back again now, and on and off, on and off. But like if you're consistent, you've been consistent for like several years. You're eating consistently, like good enough consistently for several years. Like your sleep patterns are spot on, right? You got a solid sleep schedule, and you're well rested. You're keeping alcohol consumption and any other negatives like that to a bare minimum. Like you've got all the foundation laid. Then if you want to go nitpicking with trying to, once a day or twice a day workout, hey, by all means, go for it. And what I would recommend, try both. See what you prefer, right? I'm just sharing what I prefer. I would prefer to do it all in one shot because I find the hardest part about getting to the gym is just getting to the gym. If I had to get to the gym twice for every workout, that would just make it that much harder to do it. Versus if I can get there once and get it all done, it makes it that much easier, right? Because like the hardest part of the workout for me and for probably 97% of the people out there, the hardest exercise you're going to do at the gym is opening up the door and walking through that front door. Like get your ass in the gym is the hardest part. Once you're there, it's easy because it's like coasting downhill from that point because you're already there. You just show up and do the work. But the showing up is the hardest part. The doing the work once you're already there, that's the easy part. Most people, it's not that they don't work hard when they're at the gym. It's just getting their ass there in the first place. That's where most people struggle. So if you're breaking your workouts up into 2 a days, you just doubled the workload when it comes to getting your ass to the gym. All right, moving on. Flame Hops saying, how do you keep a good physique while being an athlete how do you keep a good physique while being an athlete that main goal is to build speed and explosiveness and strength and not so much aesthetics? All those attributes can be carry over to aesthetics, right? Speed, explosiveness, and strength, like that's all stuff that you would develop in the gym through resistance training. And you could complement that through cardio training. So that really complements building a good physique. And I mean, give you a prime example. Like think of like a lot of elite athletes, like CrossFit athletes or people of that nature. I mean, like they're training for performance, but as a side effect, a lot of them have really impressive looking physiques as well. Same thing with like a lot of martial artists or MMA fighters and stuff like that. I mean, granted, they're not like bodybuilder huge or anything like that, but a lot of them have very impressive physiques. Now, some of them have more average looking physiques, like some are taller and lankier, some are shorter and stockier, and some are fatter or whatever. The fatness really depends mostly on nutrition, right? And genetics. But if you're keeping a solid nutrition plan, and you're fueling your training and not consuming a lot of empty calories and junk food and stuff like that, the type of training that would build speed and explosiveness and strength would also build aesthetics because it can be very complementary. So I think the biggest thing that's going to determine having that athletic look would be the nutrition, and that would carry over into the fat, losing body fat and fueling the workouts. Now, with that being said, I wouldn't recommend going on a hardcore cutting diet or excessively restricting your calories if your goal is athletic performance. So this actually brings up a good point, because with bodybuilding, it's not a performance sport. It's a who looks the best in their underwear sport, which is kind of, you can argue whether it's even a sport at all, right? It's more or less just a beauty pageant for who looks the best in their underwear. Like that's ultimately the sport of bodybuilding, because yes, there's a lot of physical training goes on behind the scenes to build the physique that looks good in its underwear. But the actual competition, there's no physical performance side at all. Is get on stage and pose. Now, I mean, yes, that is demanding and it takes a bit of practice and everything else to do it properly, but it's not like who ran the fastest, who lifted the most, who scored the most goals. It's not that. It's like who looks the best in their freaking underwear. That's what bodybuilding's all about. So one, genetics plays a huge role, right? Like if you got a long, lanky, awkward looking physique, then you're going to look long and lanky and awkward in your underwear. Whereas if you have a nice, symmetrical, well-balanced physique, then you're going to look nice and symmetrical and well-balanced in your underwear, right? So genetics play a huge role in this, and you can't overcome that. I mean, you can still make improvements regardless of your genetics, but ultimately, like how far you go with the building an aesthetic physique, the genetic component does play a big role. But when it comes to getting that lean, athletic looking physique, yes, you want to eat clean and you want to eat properly and kind of burn the body fat, but don't go on the whole bodybuilding cutting diet approach. Like, don't, if your goal is speed and explosiveness and strength, like, don't go on some crazy low carb cutting diet and think of depleting yourself, because that's going to reduce your speed and explosiveness and strength. And anybody who's competed in a bodybuilding competition can attest to this. The closer you get to the competition, the leaner you get, the more depleted you get, and the weaker you get, and the worse you feel in terms of strength, energy, speed, and explosiveness. Like, all those attributes go down as you get closer to a competition. Granted, your skin is getting thinner and you're looking leaner and you're looking better in your underwear, but your lifts in the gym, down the toilet. Your stamina, down the toilet. Your cardio and your explosiveness, down the toilet. Like, everything, just your performance goes down the shitter, but you look good because you're so lean. And generally speaking, the leaner you are, the better you're going to look, especially under like bright contest lights where you can't hide anything. Like, under regular gym lights or your bathroom lights or something, like if you have the shadows lined up right, like even if you got a little bit of lower belly fat or you're a little bit soft, like if the shadows are hitting you just right, you can still look pretty lean and defined and, pretty good. Under those bright contest lights that they use at bodybuilding competitions, if you have any body fat at all, it's going to show and it's going to make you look soft and mushy. So if someone looks shredded on a contest stage under regular lights, they're going to look like an anatomy chart shredded. They're going to look like, holy shit, like there's zero body fat on you. Like the skin is like saran wrapped around muscle. That's what it's going to look like. But you get them on the stage, then they look lean and defined, right? Because those stage lights, they're so bright and they're not very flattering, if you will, because again, you can't hide anything under there. Like any softness, any fat, any imperfections is going to be highlighted exponentially under those bright stage lights. And that's why they have it set up that way, right? So the judges can really pick people apart. Nothing's going to be hidden, right? Like if you had poor lighting and shadows and everything else, then it's kind of hard to tell, okay, who's really in shape and who's not. But under these mega bright lights on stage, nothing is hidden. It's all out in the open, right? So, I mean, the judges will be able to see like who's really in shape, who's not. And that's how this whole sport's judged. But back to your question there, the type of training you're doing is going to help. The thing that's going to really take to that next level is the nutrition. But with that being said, don't go overboard and don't go overboard and diet like a bodybuilder, because a bodybuilder depletes themselves in order to look as lean and shredded as possible, but they suffer in the strength and athletic performance department. If your main goal is strength and athletic performance, you got to fuel the machine. You got to nourish yourself, but you want to do so in a fine line so that you're fueling yourself with high quality, nutrient dense foods that are going to nourish the body, but not excess calories that are going to spill over to body fat. And it's a very delicate balance, and it takes a bit of trial and error or a bit of coaching and help to really fine tune that. It's something that's you're probably not just going to nail it on the head first time, right? It's probably going to take a bit of trial and error, or at least having someone who has the experience to guide you and coach you in that process. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to email me, right? We can chat about it offline and go into more detail about it, because there's so many variables in place. It's too much for me to cover here in a simple comment over a video chat. What else we got there? I'm going to clue it up. We got one more question, then I'm going to finish this up, guys. Zeb is saying, do you have a reoccurring injury? I do now. I cannot do dumbbell flies as my rotator cuff is shot. I have an injury that's haunted me for over a decade. Back in 2008, so 14 years ago now, I tore the muscles in my armpit, lat, tie-in, tricep area, all right down here. You can't really see it that well here, but there's literally no flesh there. Like there's a gap in my armpit versus this side, right? I got it's, okay, I'm going to show it there. Anyway, bottom line, I screwed it up actually. This is the good side. That's the bad side. Here, I don't know if you can see it or not. I've got a gap. Like there's no flesh here. It's just skin over tendons because the muscle is totally detached, and I've got a gap there in my armpit. This one, I've actually got the flesh. So that's why I was like, wait a minute. I'm looking at the mirror image of my computer, and it's what's screwing me up here. Anyway, that happened to me in 2008. I tore that muscle, and it all bruised, turned all purple right down my whole tricep, back everywhere. And I couldn't do a lot of stuff. I mean, the top of my tricep was torn right into the insertion of my lat. So when the tricep is torn, I couldn't do pressing exercises. When the lat's torn, I couldn't do rowing exercises. So for basically a full year, I was in like active recovery mode, just kind of going through the motions with my upper body workouts. Now with legs, I could still do some leg machines and cardio and stuff like that, but I couldn't push it hard or heavy because, again, I couldn't strain the torn muscles there. But that's been hindering me ever since. Like ever since then, I've never been able to do a heavy lifts, like 1 rep max anything since. Like I've not done a 1 rep max lift since 2008. Right. I've never hit a 1 rep max bench press or squat or deadlift since 2008 because that injury has hindered me since. And when I have tried to work up to heavy weights in those exercises, I've ended up re-aggravating that injury, right? Because the muscles in that are detached, they're torn. And I went to the doctor about it and said, look, I got I tore a muscle. Like, I mean, what can I do, right? Do I get it surgically reattached or what, He said, oh, I'll put you on a 6-month waiting list to see a specialist. Like, sweet Christ. I mean, the 6-month waiting list, I mean, it healed over on its own within 6 months. I mean, granted, it wasn't back to normal, but like, the damage was done, right? So, I mean, I don't have full strength in that side anymore. And that's my right side. And so before then, like I was competing in powerlifting, like my personal best lifts. I did a 445 bench, 530 squat, and 530 deadlift. Right. So, I mean, those were my personal best lifts when I was competing in powerlifting back in the early 2000s or mid 2000s. I did those around 2005, 2006 or so. Then I switched and did some bodybuilding competitions. And then in 2008, I had that injury. And I've never done a 1 rep max lift since. And it even bothers me today. So, like, if I try to go heavy with deadlifts or heavy with rows or anything where I'm stressing that area, it aggravates that injury. So I can relate to having nagging injuries that hinder your training. And you know what? You just got to work around it. You really do. I mean, it'd be nice to say, oh, I could band-aid it or whatever, but it is what it is. So I focus on improving where I can improve. And that's part of the reason why I'm not doing powerlifting anymore. And I'm focusing on other sports. Like I'm focusing more on cycling now, because at the stage I'm at now, it's a more fun and enjoyable sport for me. And it's also a healthier one because I'm able to keep my weight lower, improve my heart health and cardiovascular fitness. And it's just a nice complementary form of exercise at this stage of the game without stressing the joints, tendons, and ligaments and risking injury with, heavy powerlifting. So that concludes our video chat. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know I went long. I always go long with these video chats. So I'm going to clue it up, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it again. And I'll have the replay of this posted up over the weekend with the timestamps for all the Q&A. And if you do have any questions or you need some help with anything, feel free to reach out to me, right? You can send me an email. You can book in for a strategy session call. We can have a one-on-one call together. And all the details for that stuff is posted down in the description below this video. So if you want to reach out, open that up. Or you can also reach out to me through Facebook. I'm quite active over there as well. So head on over to the Facebook. Just do a search for Lee Hayward. You'll find me. And you can friend request me through there. And we can chat through that. All right. Have yourself a fantastic day, fantastic weekend. And I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Over and out.